Good day, everyone. Welcome to Open Oven. My name is Mike Smith. Today I want to show you a really special recipe to me. Again, this is one of my mother's recipes growing up as a kid. It was something we made. You know, we were a single parent family. A lot of times we had to make meals with food that wasn't overly expensive, and you had to make food go a long way. So we're going to make porcupines today. For those of you who are not familiar with porcupines, you're going to find out what that is. And we're going to make garlic mashed potatoes with that. In my family, of course, we would have had a vegetable as well. And so you could certainly add any vegetable to this meal that you like. Whether that be canned beans or fresh beans or carrots, whatever you happen to have. But we're going to show you what porcupines are, what my recipe was, or my mother's recipe. It's pretty simple. We're going to start with a can of tomato soup. Just the tomato soup, not the water, and we're going to pour that into a frying pan. We're going to use our little ceramic top induction element here. If you had an electric frying pan, that would work really well. This is what we have. And so we're gonna throw that in there. And basically the reason I guess why they're called porcupines is they're basically meatballs with rice in it, so it looks like maybe a porcupine. We're gonna use instant rice. Really important that you use instant rice because it'll cut down on the amount of time you have to cook these. That's what I've always used. The rice is gonna cook inside the meatball, and so basically the heat does all the work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add some rice to this. We're gonna mush it around a little bit. I guess I'm using probably a couple cups of ground beef and maybe a half a cup of rice, but I'm gonna add, and then we can always add more depending on what it kind of looks like. And you're gonna get dirty with this recipe. So our hands are I'm just gonna grab a plate. Our hands are gonna get a little bit dirty. Not much you can do about that. And basically you just work let me grab that. You're gonna work the rice into the meat. And I would say maybe a half a cup of instant rice, maybe even a third of a cup. Work the rice in kind of evenly. And again, depending on how many people you're feeding would depend on how much hamburger. But like I said, if you were starting with what looks to be about maybe a cup and a half to 2 cups of hamburger, you're probably looking at a half a cup of instant rice. Okay. Let's move that out of the way. I'll add some salt and pepper. Again, this is to taste, depending on if you're a pepper person or not. Not too much salt, because this will turn out the tomato soup has some salt in it. So then basically what you're going to do is you're going to make meatballs. I would say the size a little smaller than a golf ball, or golf ball size is about right. And we've got that tomato soup heating up already. And we're just going to throw it in the soup. And we're going to let the heat and the soup do its thing. see what that looks like. In there for you. And it's already starting to bubble, so you know we're getting hot enough. You want to cook this, I would say, at around medium at the most, at least for the beginning, and then you want to actually turn it down and simmer it a little bit. Basically what you're looking for is when the meat is finished. When the meat is cooked all the way through, you're good to go. Don't overcook it. You don't really want it being crispy. You don't want it being fried. That's why you're going to be medium heat to start, and then once that starts to really bubble, then you can turn it down to a, maybe a between simmer and medium, and cook the meat. For our purposes, we're gonna maybe put a couple more in there, and then we're gonna let that heat up. Really a recipe that means a lot to me. We had this often, very simple, ground beef, instant rice, and canned tomato soup. And growing up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, those things were all relatively inexpensive. Can't really say that about ground beef today. And then the other thing I want to add, just it should be good enough, is I'm using regular ground beef. You see a lot of regular ground beef anymore, but for this kind of recipe, I actually have better experience with regular ground beef. You can, if you're really opposed to regular ground beef, you can use lean ground beef, of course. But like I said, for this recipe, I prefer it. You get a little bit of the ground beef, a little bit of the juices. I just find it tastes a little bit better. I don't know if it's the tomato soup, and then you're going to end up making potatoes with this. We always had, growing up, porcupines and mashed potatoes. We're going to make garlic mashed potatoes, just to kind of try something a little bit different. And then, of course, I'll just turn these just to make sure that they're going to start to cook evenly, and move those around. And it's just like cooking a meatball in tomato soup. It's not real complicated. At any point, if you want to add more spice, more pepper, whatever it happens to be, you can certainly do that too. I have on occasion sliced up peppers and cooked the peppers in the tomato soup. You see that commonly, like if you had sweet and sour meatballs, something like that, then you would see maybe green pepper. You could add that as well. I'm going with my traditional recipe that we made with our family, but again, you could adjust that as you needed to. So we'll just let that cook, and we'll be right back shortly, and we'll continue. We're back. As you can see, our meatballs, or our porcupines, are coming along nicely. Normally, probably cooking those for 20 minutes or so. You want to have the temperature enough that it's going to cook the ground beef, and then obviously cooking the rice. You've got instant rice in there, so the heat from the tomato soup will easily cook the rice. When the ground beef is finished, the rice will be finished. The easiest way to tell is to split one open and sample it. So we're having mashed potatoes, garlic mashed potatoes today, and I say that for reasons that this is what I was used to growing up. We had a meat and potatoes and vegetables, and they go really well together. When you're cutting potatoes, and I'm not really particular in this particular recipe, or really anytime what potato. I know they say this potato is sweeter or whatever. I've never really been able to figure that out, whether it's russet potatoes or white potatoes or red. Basically, you're going to be mashing them, so really the only thing that you need to be cognizant of is the size. If you're going to cut potatoes, this size, then you have to expect that it's going to take you a little bit longer for those potatoes to boil. Again, we're trying to come up with recipes that are quick, that you can make in a half an hour, regardless of what size your family is. So that should reflect the size that you cut them up with. I would prefer to put a potato in the water that size. So we're going to do those potatoes here shortly, cut up some potatoes. Depending on what you like for vegetables, a lot of times we had, when I was growing up, fresh beans or canned carrots or whatever it happened to be. We're going to go with cold vegetables for this meal. So we're going to do the old celery and carrots. So washed, of course. I did take the time on the break to wash my hands. Of course, handling ground beef, you don't want to take that to your vegetables and your potatoes. Obviously, you want to stay clean. Carrots, again, I'm not really overly fussy about taking the skin off. If you have someone in your family who is, obviously, if you want to take a peeler, you can take the edge of a knife. If you're really good at it, you can do that. If you're a peeler type person and you want to peel them and take the skin off, you can do that as well. So we'll get some handy sized carrots. And we'll just put those aside. That's going to be our side or our garnish or our vegetable. Just check on the meatballs. Again, keep turning the meatballs. You want to have them cook evenly. They look like they're coming along great. Porcupines. So those are almost done. We're going to be cooking garlic mashed potatoes. If you want to go with regular mashed potatoes, you can do that. We're going to try something that I don't do a whole lot. We're going to create the the garlic mashed potato sauce. You want to heat that. We're going to use butter, we're going to use milk, and we're going to use cream. And today we're going to use just regular kind of half and half cream. I recommend probably heavy cream, especially if you're new to this. It's just easy. So we're going to, looks like the porcupines are ready to go, and then we're going to get to our garlic mashed potatoes. Let me check this out. If you want to see what that looks like, nice. Looks really, really good. And I said, you know, the best way to know if everything's done is to give it a little sample. You can see that it's completely finished. And I just want to make sure and check to make sure that the rice is cooked. Perfect. Every time I eat it, it actually reminds me of being a kid. Silly how food does that to you, but I think we all experience that, whether it's a favorite restaurant. But we're going to be back shortly, and we're going to polish off the rest of this, and we're going to make our garlic mashed potatoes and put this all together. We're ready to finish off this wonderful meal through the magic of television. We have our mashed potatoes. Just going to set our porcupines aside for a second. And we're going to, it is garlic mashed potatoes. So we're going to take the sauce, we're going to put this on the heat. If you cook this, the garlic cooks a little bit, and that'll help you out when you start to mix that. So we're going to use, I have a half a cup of cream and a half a cup of milk. I'm only going to add half the cream, just kind of see what this looks like. I've got a clove. I'm going to use a small clove of garlic. Well, it's not a small clove, but we'll use about half of it. I'm going to finely chop that. I've got it on the heat there. Whoops. Get some of that peel off. Finely chop that up. And quickly kind of put some of that into the mix. And you could use garlic paste, really anything that gives your mixture and eventually your potatoes that kind of bit of garlic flavor. Again, you can just easily do this with just regular mashed potatoes. We're going to stick that in there. We're going to turn the heat up a little bit, get it cooking. We're going to use, I would say, a half a cup of butter or so. So if you have a full thing, around a quarter, maybe a little less because I have a fair amount in there. We're going to put that right in there. Whoa. and then let that get hot. I got Butterfinger. I thought it was funny. Clean that up a tiny bit. I told you I'm kind of messy when I cook. You don't want to be behind me. You don't want to be the person doing dishes after I'm cooking. All right, we're going to let that heat up. And then eventually, in a couple of minutes or so, we're going to add that to the mashed potatoes. We're going to mash them, and you're ready to roll. We're going to start to get prepared. All right, so you can see that butter started to melt, mixing with the cream and the milk. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And like I said, maybe 2 minutes or so on high. You get it bubbling a little bit, and then, then turn it down. But it's just allowing that garlic to heat up and kind of penetrate the butter and the cream. So it's starting to bubble now. I just stir it often again, just so it doesn't start sticking to the bottom. It's pretty hot. I can smell it already. It has a wonderful smell. Smells great. And again, with any recipe that has garlic, you put in as much or as little garlic as you want to. I've put in half a clove probably. I'm not a huge garlic fan, but if you try it. And if you want more garlic, just add as you go kind of thing. And then you'll kind of get the secret of how much you should put in. Again, I'm not going to pour this entire thing in here because we don't want it liquid. So it'd be no different that when you go to make your mashed potatoes any other way. You don't want them to be liquid. Obviously, you're going to have butter and milk usually. I'm going to mush those up. Looking good. They'll originally, when you start, they'll look a little bit liquidy, but once you get all that potato mashed up in there, it should be the right texture. I only probably put in probably a half to 2/3 of that mixture. And again, put in as much or as little as you want. But you can smell it. It definitely smells, and you can't smell through the television, but it definitely smells like garlic. So we know we're on the right path, and it's starting to look yummy. So mash them, like I said, mash them as much as you like. If you like lumpy potatoes, don't mash them as much. If you like them whipped, you could take out a food processor, or if you want to whip them, you could do that. Here I'm just doing old-fashioned mashing. Again, growing up, this was a staple, I would say. We had it at least once a month. Mashed potatoes and porcupines. I love cold vegetables, so I never mind celery, carrots. I'm not a broccoli or cauliflower fan, but you could obviously, any hot vegetable would work as well. So we're going to put some on there. And now the last thing is, we don't want to put all this nice juicy tomato soup to waste. We're going to throw some of that on there. And you have one of my favorite recipes, porcupines, mashed potatoes, in this case garlic mashed potatoes, and whatever side vegetable you would like to add. We're gonna, of course, we have to sample this. Awesome. Enjoy porcupines mashed potatoes.